I woke up this morning and only to find a comment from someone about my IF can. It's not going to work. It has to be set for 1,000 kilocycles or kilohertz. I did mention I use Professor coil. These are each coil has a 150 picofarad cap across it. I set it for the middle in the calculation for Professor coil, and I know that when you put the IF coil into the case, it's going to go down in frequency because it's near metal. The inductance is going to go up and the frequency is going to go down. Likewise, when you add the coil into the circuit, there's capacitance from the circuit that's going to make the coil go even lower. So if you were to make an air coil, two coils together at 915 kilohertz, when you put them inside, you would lose your peak. But this has two tunable capacitors, and this coil itself goes below. It goes down to 902 kilohertz and above 1,000 something kilohertz. Okay, that's the way I designed it. I sat in Professor coil, and I changed the amount of turns. Okay. And I'm thinking, I want to be in this zone. I know all about this stuff. I've done this before. And when I did the video, I didn't get too into it because the average person doesn't work on radios. Okay? So then you got people that talk about they're going to work on radios. There are people that buy radios and talk about getting to the radios, but it sits on a shelf. Then you get guys that go into a radio that bodge it up and then get someone else to straighten it out. Then you have people that actually can fix a radio as long as they buy parts. Okay. Then you have the 1%ers or the half of 1%ers. People like me that can say, well, the radio's missing a coil. And you look around for the first part of a day. In between doing other things, you look for the coil. See if anybody's got one. Now, I could ask around. And a person will say, yeah, I got one of those coils somewhere. That guy's worthless. He's never going to look. He just wants to say something like that in a group. Yeah, I'll look tomorrow. Oh, I didn't get around to it. You'll be months into it when you realize this guy doesn't know where the coil is, doesn't even know if he's got the coil. Been down those roads, okay? People promising to bring me stuff in, and then when they bring it in, it's not what I said I wanted. It's insanity. So I'm the guy that I looked at all the different IF cans that I had, and I'm saying to myself, what one can I salvage and turn into a 915 kilohertz coil? I've done this before, okay? I've made IFs, which they say you can't with toroid coils. You can. You put a coupling coil on it. There's so many ways that you can do something when people tell you it won't work. But ahead of time, I knew that I needed to go higher on the upper side of the frequency of the coils, because like I said, when it goes in the case and when it goes in the circuit, it's going to come down. I knew all that. I don't want, when I do the video, I don't want to go too deep into all this stuff, because the average person watching it, or I shouldn't say they're the average person, the radio people that watch this have either attempted this and it didn't work out. Maybe they'll learn something from me. You know, I don't know. I'm showing you what I work on, how I think. And I don't go real into detail because it's boring. All right. But you got these comment people. And every time I click on a person that's made a comment, they have no videos. You know, so I don't know where they're coming from. Maybe they made a coil and it didn't work right. Or maybe they took a 915 megahertz coil and put a signal generator across it and realized it didn't resonate at 915. That's because it wasn't adjusted. That's because it wasn't in the circuit. Okay. Once it gets in the circuits, it changes. Okay. So I said, okay, again. But in other words, the manufacturer sends you the coil set at a certain frequency, and you drop it in. Usually it just works right away. And you can peak it up. There's people that, you know, they got to line every radio they ever got, but their generator is off. Okay. My generator for 455 is crystal controlled. I made it myself. That's what I use. And it annoys me these people make these comments because it confuses the person who's watched my video. Oh, he screwed up. He didn't know that. I know that, but I can't tell you everything I know in one video. And it really bothers me that the people that make these real technical comments, the nitpickers, they never seen our videos. Or they have these wacky, weird videos that are creepy, and I never say anything to them because they creep me out. But that's the way it goes. I just wanted to tell you, I did figure on this thing needing to be higher in frequency. And that's why I said the word fast on those tuning capacitors. You would not use those normally. You would use ones that are maybe, instead of 150 picofarad, a range of maybe 25 picofarads. Right? But I used those because that's what came with that bobbin. And I know it's going to be a pain in the ass to torque it in, but it'll be good enough because the radio is such a piece of shit. Okay? It's a Bodged piece of shit that should be in the garbage, but I paid over 50 bucks for it. And I'll work on it a little at a time. You know, when I opened that radio up and saw that IF can miss, and I'm going, oh, don't do this to me. I am tired of winding coils. Oh, and this coil isn't doped. What you see on there is silicon caulking. So I can unravel the coil. I can take some turns off it. I only put a thin stripe of silicon caulking so it won't unravel. But if I have to, I can pull the wire back through the silicon caulking and take turns off. When I build a coil, I know things can go wrong. And I pre-adjust my options. I make sure it's pre-adjusted so if it goes in the case, the frequency can come down a little. It'll still be tunable. When it goes in the circuit, it'll still be tunable. But there's always things you don't expect. So that's why you got to put as many options into your design. And this coil is never going to work as good as the original. And I wanted to say, this wire is cotton covered, single strand enamel wire. And you'll say, why is it cotton covered? Okay, when you cotton cover the wire, it puts distance. When you wrap it over another wire, it puts a little bit of distance between the other wire, which reduces capacitance, which increases your Q. You know, I can show you on my scope how this thing peaks up. All right, but when they really designed the original coil, it has a better Q than the one I just built. But it's good enough to get the radio working. I won't call it a resurrection, but that's basically what it is. Once the radio works, it'll get on the pile with the other radios. It's a stay busy thing. I do knock myself out, but I don't over knock myself out, if that's possible, on these things, because the radio's a piece of shit. I see guys take radios totally apart and buff up the parts, send out the chassis and get it plated. That's not me. I know that there are other radios, just like the one he's rebuilding, that are in better shape somewhere else. So what he's doing is he's basically rebuilding a radio. He's buying a radio. He's putting time and money into a radio, and in the end, it's a band that nobody cares about anymore. And I really like the radios. I really like the circuitry. And when I saw that mystery circuit, which, by the way, I don't think was built by the guy that owned the radio. It's too neatly built compared to the Bodged that he did in the radio. He's got tape. He's got wires cut. He's got the soldering iron that I think he didn't use flux core, rosin core. I think he used regular acid core in the radio. It's just, the more you look at the radio, the more I think I should carry it out to the garbage. That's where I'm at, you know. But I'll work on it a little bit each day. You know, like yesterday I got the coils wound. Today I'll add the wires on, double check that I have continuity, put it in there, let the wires hang, because that's the final part of the radio, is the fourth IF. I still have to, I won't recap right away, but in other words, I have to build a power supply for it. I have the parts. I won't recap. But, and the next step is the filament has been bodged for 6 volts. So all my radios run on 24. All my aircrafts, they're all 24 volt filaments, because that's my power supplies. I can move my power supplies around. And the guy really, really bodged the audio section. Oh, it's amazing. I'm like, that's going to be a total rebuild. And he's probably, I'll probably, after I look at the way what he did, I'll go looking for that article. You know, how to squeeze a little more audio out of the radio. No, what you want to do is properly match the audio transformer and get a good speaker, and you're done. Okay, but no, they basically, yeah, cut this out, add this capacitor, change it. I really stepped into shit when I got in these aircraft radios. I didn't realize the knuckleheads, people that buy a radio, have no clue what they're doing. They get in there and they're following the article, and then they give up, and it ends. At some point, it sits in the cellar. It gets all musty and disgusting. Then somebody puts it on eBay and wants a lot of money for it. And then I get it, and I'm like, why did I buy this? I have so many radios. And the last few nights, I haven't even turned them on. What I did do is I turned my antenna around in the attic, and I'm getting Philly stations. I get a bunch more stations than aiming at Harrisburg. So I've been watching a little bit more television at night in between this project. So, and I just got done with a hour and a half walk, and I bumped into some guy that I know in the other neighborhood. The neighborhoods out here are getting ratty looking. The people just don't have the money they used to have. I think that's it. All right, that's